So introduction to freeze drying. I know some might be able to come up here and teach the class, or not. So this is mainly for the ones that don't have freeze dry, but there are some tips and tricks and stuff. I mean, and like I said, if you've got something to share, absolutely bring it up. Things that you've done and run into and stuff. Uh, yeah, mention it. So freeze drying. All right, so there's three main ways of preserving food: canning, dehydrating, and freeze drying. All right, so when comparing to those other methods, freeze drying to canning and heating, there's many advantages, a few little disadvantages, but um, anytime you're canning something or you're dehydrating it, you're overcooking the food to get it in a preserved state. So you've already green beans. You've already cooked your green beans. Now you're gonna can them. So now you gotta put them in the jars. You gotta boil it, get it super hot to kill all bacteria, anything like that in there. So you're overcooking the food. You're cooking it again. And same way with dehydrating. You put it in the dehydrator, even though you run it on low temperature, 100 degrees or whatever, you're still cooking the food, right? To kill everything and to remove all the moisture. So by doing that, then you're removing up to 50% of the nutritional value of the food and the flavor and stuff. If you're making jerky, of course you put a whole bunch of flavoring on it. But if you want to just preserve like green beans or meals or anything like that, bananas and stuff, you're losing that value and flavor. With the freeze drying, totally different. You're not overcooking the food. You're freezing it down super cold and doing sublimation. We'll go over that here in just a minute. All right. So, I put on here, canning process involves, sealing the food in airtight containers, heating them to a high temperature to destroy microorganisms. It's very effective, but there again too, with your freeze dried, with your canned foods and your dehydrated foods, you have a lot shorter shelf life. Canned foods, they usually say 3 to 5 years. Same way with dehydrating, you can get out there about 7 or 8 years on dehydrating, and it's all dependent on how you store it and stuff too. So advantages of canning, 1 to 3 years, depending on type of food and the storage conditions. Canning equipment, I mean, you're gonna spend $100 to $200 a year. New jars, new lids, washing, cleaning, all the salt, all the supplies and stuff. Uh, Ease of storage. I mean, once you've got it canned, jarred up, put it on a shelf. Disadvantages, of course, is the nutritional loss. I mean, you could, you typically lose, about 40%, but you can go up to about 50%. So in comparison, a pound of freeze dried hamburger meat, you would have to eat 2 pounds of canned meat or dehydrated meat to equal the same nutritional value. So absolutely. So disadvantages is the nutritional loss, time consuming. Canning takes a long time to do everything, prep the food, get it all done. Uh, Limited food types. Not all foods can be safely canned. You know, pureed, mashed, uh, stuff like pumpkins, things like that. It's really difficult to get it to stay shelf stable. All right. Dehydrating, kind of same thing. It involves removing moisture from the food using heat and air circulation. Even though I have people, well, I dehydrate and I dehydrate on low temperature so I don't overcook it. Well, you're still cooking it. You've got to heat it up to remove the moisture and stuff out of it. Shelf life again, 1 to 3 years, depending on the type of food and storage conditions. Uh, Dehydrators are relatively inexpensive. The process is simple. You have it on your shelf there, you put it up, load it up, turn it on. Uh, uh, it's suitable for a wide range of foods, including fruits, vegetables, and meats. So I'm not trying to downgrade canning and dehydrating a lot. uh, I mean, everything has its place, but just on 90% of your foods, freeze drying is just way much better. So disadvantages, nutrition loss, same thing. Texture and taste. For me, I have issues eating shoe leather. Don't care for it. Um, it's not that time consuming, but it can take several days, depending on what you're dehydrating, uh, to get it to that dried state. All right, freeze drying. All right, so we'll go over the theory of operation with our handy dandy trusted freeze dryer right here. All right, so how does it work? So when you turn it on, the barrel has coils wrapped all around it, and the barrel starts freezing down. So there, in turn, it starts freezing down all the food that's on the trays. Okay. Once we get down to about like -10, then the vacuum pump will come on and pull a vacuum on the chamber, pull a real tight vacuum. All right. Well, once you start removing those air molecules, the temperature is going to drop down to like -50 in no time. So now you've got your food in here, and it's super, super cold. So all the water that's in there has crystallized. Okay. So now we've got heating pads underneath here. So yes, we do heat the food up, but it's just to get the food, to get the water molecules to turn back into a liquid state so it can be sublimated, sucked out of the food. All right, so everything's super cold. You've got a super tight vacuum. So you start warming the food up to break those ice crystals back down into a liquid form. Well, as soon as that ice crystal goes back into liquid, it is sucked out of the food by the vacuum, and the moisture goes and freezes on the barrel. So the process, it'll warm the food up and then let it freeze back down. Warm the food up, let it freeze back down. And it's constantly checking with moisture sensors in there if it's still getting moisture out of the food. So once the machine sees that there's no more moisture coming out of the food, then the process is done. Uh, it's really simple. Like I said, we are heating the food up, but we're not cooking the food. Does that make sense? So you just got to get those ice crystals to turn back into liquid form so it can be sucked out of the food. So that's basically the theory of operation. Pretty simple, basic. Uh, been around for a long time. The government's had it since the 50s. Let's see here. Yeah. So yeah, pretty much went over everything there. All right. So food, always get asked, well, what can I freeze dry and what can I not freeze dry? Well, there are some things that you don't freeze dry. All right. Fatty meats, fat. You can't pull moisture out of fat. You just can't do it. So if there's moisture, there's bacteria. If there's bacteria, it's going to grow and spread. So just for like example, say you freeze dry, a steak, a ribeye steak. You just freeze dry the whole thing. And you put it in your Mylar bag with that strip of fats and stuff on there. You can freeze dry it, and it will last for a while, but eventually everything's going to start going rancid because of the moisture and stuff in the fat and the bacteria that's going to grow in it. So if you're going to do meats, make sure it's very lean meat. You rinse off all the oils and greases and fats and stuff like that. Uh, some of the better things is like chicken, tuna, things like that. Deer meat, very low fat content. You'll get a lot longer shelf life. But there's one of the beauties in freeze drying too. Say you do your steak, you freeze dry it, you put it in a Mylar bag, you put oxygen absorber in there, you seal it all up. That oxygen absorber sucks the bag down, makes it all tight. So you take and throw it in your closet or whatever. Well, 10 years from now, you go to digging through your food, and if that bag is swelled up some, it's went rancid. Throw it away and not eat it. So that's one of the good things with sealing your bags up, Mylar bags and oxygen absorbers. If you ever see them start puffing up, you know what in there is not good to eat. Meats containing bones. there again, I mean, you can suck moisture from bones, but it takes so long. And there's still moisture going to be in there. Moisture equals bacteria, goes rancid. But what I do is I'll buy it local. I'll cook it all up, real slow cook it, and then I'll rinse it off in hot water really good and rinse it all off. I don't put any spices or anything like that in it. I'll do that when I go to prepare it. So I just kind of keep it plain. I mean, you can put spice and stuff in there if you want to, but the way I do it is I cook it all up plain, rinse it all off really good, and then freeze dry it and package it up. Right. Butter, there again, you can't suck moisture from oils and fats. So butter's mostly oils, the oils from the milk. Uh, the big industrial freeze dryers, you can get away with a lot more, but the smaller home units, they're just not powerful enough to get everything out that you need to. Pure chocolate, chocolate's oil. Okay, so there again, you can't suck moisture from oil. Um, Coffee beans, don't do the coffee beans whole because it has a shell. It's in a shell, so there's still moisture on the inside. So any like coffee beans, if you're going to freeze dry coffee, grind it up first, then freeze dry it. Okay. Honey, there again, honey's not a oil or a fat, but there's a lot of natural sugar in there. Sugar just kind of melts and becomes a sticky goo. Uh, Again, the big industrial freeze dryers can do it, but the small ones, you'll be wasting your time. You'll spend days of running your freeze dryer to try to do it. Same way with jams and jellies. Mayonnaise, of course. Mayonnaise is egg whites and oil. So nuts, nut butter, and nuts. Nuts are oil. I mean, they're just pure oil. You can grind them up and freeze dry it, but I wouldn't keep them more than a year or two. They go rancid really quick. And of course, syrup, from all the natural sugars and stuff in the syrup. Right, yeah, can it or get it um, uh, like ready hour. I have freeze dried honey, um, the coffee, uh, peanut butter, and stuff like that. I sell that over there from Ready Hour, but again, they have the big industrial units that can do that process. So yeah, I would just buy those items separately. Eh, Everybody can live without mayonnaise. Yeah, there goes that Mater sandwich, huh? All right, foods that are good to freeze dry. So I always get the bad ones out of the way first. So fruits like apples, pears, berries, peaches, nectarines, bananas, passion fruit, all your fruits you can do. The one thing I say, like if you're doing like raspberries or blueberries or figs or anything like that, make sure you like your figs, you need to cut them up, quarter them or something. It's very difficult to suck moisture through the skin. Blueberries, if you just put a tray full of blueberries in there, it's very difficult to suck the moisture through that skin. Raspberries and stuff, same way. So if you're going to do like blueberries or anything like that, if you don't want to take 4 days, puree it or cut them. I can sit there, cut each blueberry. But do something like that there to open them up where you can suck the moisture out. Very difficult to suck moisture through the skin. Vegetables, same way, asparagus, avocados, beets, roots, mushrooms, corn. My daughter just loves freeze-dried corn. She'll sit there and just open up the bag and just eat it, crunch it like candy. Uh, I've got a gentleman, he comes every year during gardening season with buttloads of squash. Loves squash. So he'll sit there and slice it all up into like potato chip sizes. We freeze dry it all up, and that's what he eats. Just potato chip squash. Uh, Vegetables that are not that great to do, like tomatoes. If you take a tomato and slice it up, freeze dry it, kind of sticks to the pan. You can use silicone mats and stuff, but still, when you go to scrape it all up, it just crumbles into powder because there's so much moisture content. So we've tried tomatoes, and like I said, by the time you get it all up and try to get it in the bag, you've got powder.
I made salsa and spaghetti sauce, marinara sauce,
Right,
do beautifully.
right, yes. So if you take your tomatoes and make a salsa out of it, or paste or whatever, that works great. Or if you want to do like tomato chunks and freeze dry it and make like a powder, you can store that too. But yeah, definitely put it in like a salsa or something. Um, uh, uh, okra, okra does really good, but when you when you go to rehydrate it, reconstitute it, it does get that slimy. Yeah. So if you're going to freeze dry things like okra and stuff like that, uh, make your soup and then put your freeze dried okra in the soup, kind of help take away. So it's a learning process, Uh, uh, milk, cheese, sour cream, yogurt. We freeze dry milk all the time. I would get like the 2% or skim milk because there's a lot less fat content in it. Uh, Fill your trays up, pop it in there, freeze dry it. So whenever you're doing like solids, like meats, fruits, veggies, things like that, the process is typically about 24 hours. But once you get into liquids like eggs or milk, it's just liquid. So there's a whole lot more water content. So it could take 2 to 3 days to do a whole freeze dryer full of milk or something. So anything that's liquid, just remember there's a lot more water in there, a lot longer to suck all that water out.
Do you recommend freezing the trays of the liquids before you freeze dry?
Oh yeah, absolutely. If you've got like a chest freezer or something, go ahead and make up your meals or liquids or whatever. Get it ready. Fill your trays up. Put it in your chest freezer, and let it freeze down solid. And that uh, dramatically speeds up the freeze drying process because half the time of freeze drying is freezing the food. So if it's already frozen when you put it in, then you just cut your freeze drying time in half. Sour cream yogurt, you can make like little yogurt bites. Just get you like a little cake decorating thing. Sit there and just squirt you out a whole bunch of little dots on your pan. Make like little yogurt bites. Really good little treats. Uh, Eggs and meats, of course. Herbs. I was talking earlier. Yeah, my wife, she's got her herb gardens. Uh, Everything comes on, all at one time. We don't have time to process everything right then. So we'll bring in the plants, plantain. Uh, I mean, just everything. I can't name everything, but she'll pick a whole bunch of stuff and put it in a big old basket, and I'll bring it in here and freeze dry it. And then we bag up the plants and leaves and everything all together. And then when she has time to process everything, then we do it, or we just keep the plants and put those up and store them. So if hard times hit in the middle of winter, you're not growing anything, but you need some plantain because you just cut your leg off. You can open up your bag and get the stuff out and process it right then. Pre-made meals, uh, like if you make a famous taco lasagna bake or something, go ahead and freeze dry that and quarter it up into like portion sizes, and then freeze dry that and then bag that up and then just reconstitute it. It works great. Like sauces, soups, stews, anything like that. Yeah, yeah. Just go ahead and freeze dry the whole meal all at one time. Uh, Sourdough starter. Yes, you can freeze dry sourdough starter. It has a lot shorter shelf life. You're not going to get 25, 30 years out of it, but you'll definitely extend the life up to about 10 years on sourdough starter. So that's a good little thing. Uh, uh, Sourdough bread. So you've got to get it started with yeast and all this other stuff, and got to let it ferment. I don't know the whole process. I got a buddy that makes my sourdough bread. All right. So, shelf life, freeze dried food typically is labeled to last 25 to 30 years, depending on how you store it. Okay. Oxygen absorbers, mylar bags, your glass jars. Uh, Never use plastic. Don't use Ziploc baggies or anything like that unless you're planning on to eat it within the week or two or something like that. If you're putting things up for long term, never use plastic. Plastic is not an oxygen barrier. It will Oxygen will get in there and will make your food go bad. Um, but glass jars are really awesome. You can buy that little vacuum sealer thingy now. Put your
It's
free
great.
Yeah, put your freeze dried food in there, vacuum seal it, put it on the shelf. Your mylar bags, drop you an oxygen absorber in there, seal it up. It is a light and oxygen barrier, so nothing is going to come in or go out.
In a jar, would you
Well, if you don't have the little vacuum thing, or you can, yeah, you can get the little small oxygen absorber packs and just drop one in there, vacuum vacuum seal it, and it helps. I mean, it can't hurt. The little vacuum sealer, especially if you got a battery powered one, your battery's getting weak, you're not going to pull as tight of a vacuum on it. Again, it's all in how you store it. If you freeze dry a whole bunch of stuff and you put it up in the attic, yeah, don't look for that food to last more than 10 years. Heat, even though if you have it in mylar bags or jars or anything like that, the heat, the hot, cold is going to make everything expand. It just Heat destroys food. Heat, water, and oxygen kill food. Uh, Again, don't use plastic Ziploc baggies. Get you some little totes or something, and then put it in there. You can sit there and label them. Like you do one tote of your meats, one tote of meals, however you want to label it, and just put it in a cool, dry, dark place. Uh, if you have like a basement or a crawl space or something like that that stays a constant cooler temperature, and you put this food down in there, this food will outlive us. So, or if you have a bunker, you can go down, put everything in your bunker. Anybody got bunkers? All right, freeze drying time. We kind of touched on that a little bit ago. Uh, Fruit, veggies, meats, full meals, and stuff like that. Everything's a little bit different. The thickness and shapes of it. If you're doing meats and you like a roast or something, and you cut them in really thin slices, of course, it's not going to take as much time as if you cut them in 1 inch slices. Something to bear in mind. Same way with your fruits and stuff. The thicker it is, of course, a little bit longer it's going to take. It depends on just how you like it. Uh, Things like bananas, uh, I recommend dipping them in a sugary glaze. You can dip them in your lemon water, but a freeze dried banana is very bland. So if you dip it in like a little bit of a sugary glaze, just just something to give it a little flavor, and help lock it in. Apples, we talked earlier. Yeah, I always dip those in lemon water, and that's just mainly to keep them from browning before they get frozen in the freeze dryer. All right, foods that are naturally high in water content. So this is what we was talking about earlier. Your milk and your scrambled eggs and stuff like that. I do a lot of scrambled eggs, not just for myself, but for other people too. Uh, they work out so good. Uh, yeah, your scrambled eggs and stuff do raw. You can freeze dry it cooked. There's no problem in that. But as far as space goes, freeze drying them raw takes up a whole lot less space. Uh, because when you get done freeze drying it, it's like one big dry cake. You can sit there and break it up, and I'll put it in a little food processor, make egg powder out of it. And 2 tablespoons of egg powder and 3 tablespoons of water make the perfect egg for me. So, um, milk, of course, I'll do the same thing with milk. It comes out in one big cake. I'll break it all up, turn it into powder. Got powdered milk. Load sizes. Okay, so with the newer freeze dryers, if I can get my tray. They've with the newest Harvest Right freeze dryers, uh, they've actually added another shelf. Okay. With the newer model freeze dryers, they've actually added another shelf uh, to each one. So the old mediums, this is a medium here. The old mediums only had 4. Now the new ones hold 5 trays. And how they did that, it's the same size freeze dryer. They just shortened the space in between. So when you're filling your trays up, try to keep it, even with the lip and stuff. Because if you start overfilling it, you can see how close that is. So if you start overfilling your trays too much, then you risk running into the heating pad and just making a mess and stuff like that. So try to keep your load sizes at least level with the tray. Uh, so like right here, it shows like the leafy greens. Now I have to do that with Melinda's plants. Yeah, because they're some kind of big and bushy. So I'll have to sit there and kind of squish them down best I can to get them in there. And it does make a mess especially when you're pulling the trays out. They get hung on everything. But like this right here, where like you're overfilling the trays, like a quarter inch or so above, you just it adds a whole lot more time to the freeze drying process. You risk making a mess on the heating pads, things like that. So try to keep your batches down low. Yeah, see here how they got it way overloaded. This is one of the older ones. Uh, so try to keep it level with the lip of the tray for best results and best time. And the silicone mats, you see there, the silicone mats work great, um, especially for like your fruits and stuff, because they'll stick to the stainless steel pan. So you put that silicone mat on there and lay everything on there, it all just comes right off a lot easier. No, they don't come with the silicone mats. You gotta buy those separate. So, um, yeah, and the lids too. So yeah, most definitely get you some lids, especially if you're gonna do liquids and stuff. If you're gonna pre-freeze your food in a freezer, fill your trays up, put a lid on it, then you can stack the trays in your freezer. Yeah, they make lids. I've got some over. I'll show you. And now the lid will also double as a tray. You can flip the lid over and have like 3 different little compartments to put stuff. So like if you want to do, you don't want your strawberries and your apples and stuff all mixing, you can just use the tray lid and keep everything kind of separated.
Or to separate meals.
Yeah,
Really
for
good
like
if
different
you're doing like
meals.
spaghetti.
Yeah, so they work out really good. So what the freeze dryer comes with, the Harvest Right freeze dryer, of course, comes with the freeze dryer, the vacuum pump, and the oil, everything there. Comes with all the trays. It comes with a 50 pack of Mylar bags, the oxygen absorbers, the sealer, the bag sealer for the Mylar bags, and it comes with this handy dandy little tea pitcher that you don't use for tea. Okay. This is like one of the greatest things that Harvest Right's come out with. Honest to goodness, I love it. Uh, not diminishing all the new features and stuff, but this right here. So you're running a vacuum pump, so you're sucking water out of the food, right? Well, during that process, you're going to suck water into the vacuum pump, and it's going to get into the oil. So that's what makes your oil break down and go bad, is all the water content in the oil. Okay, so after about every 30 cycles, the freeze dryer actually pop up and tell you time to change oil. There's a one little valve on your pump. You take this little tea pitcher and it's got a water separator filter on it. So say you just bought one, you just put your brand new oil in it, and you've been running it. All right, it pops up, time to change oil. you drain that oil into the top of this tea pitcher, and then go ahead and fill your pump up with new oil again. And then uh, the oil will drain down through here and separate all the water out, and the oil end up down here in the bottom. All right, so then the next time it says time to change oil, you can actually drain your used oil back into the top of this, and then use this little spigot right here and pour that used oil back into your pump. So you're not constantly having to change your oil. And you can do that until that filter clogs up, it doesn't work anymore. And how you know that is you'll put oil in here and it never goes down. So the filter's full and you got to change the filter. Uh, I've had mine for 3 years. I have not changed the filter yet. So I've been recycling the oil for that long. So another little thing there. But yeah, it comes with everything to get started. Freeze dries. Take it home and plug it in. One thing I'll note, the small and the medium, you can plug into a regular 15 amp 110 circuit. If you go with the large or the extra large and stuff, you do need to run your own dedicated 20 amp circuit to it. So if you're going to get like a large one, just make sure you got electrician, or your electrician or whatever, you dedicate a 120 volt 20 amp circuit just for that. And it has to be the 20 amp plug, because your regular plugs like this, it has like that to indicate the 20 amp. So you'll have to have a different receptacle on there for the large. All right. Room temperature and humidity. All right. So when you freeze dry and stuff, don't take your freeze dryer and put it in your garage. It's got to have, it's like an air conditioning unit or anything like that. It's got to have airflow, ventilation and stuff. So down in your basement, in your kitchen, or something like that there where it's a little cooler, there's more airflow and stuff, definitely use it there. Here's like a little setup in a garage or something, but hopefully they're air conditioned. But yeah, don't set it beside a window where the sun shines in and stuff like that, because that will make your unit take a lot longer to freeze dry. Uh, so machine placement and airflow, keep it away from other appliances. Uh, keep the sides open. You see all the little vent holes and stuff. It actually has a uh, evaporator, condenser coil right here. So keep it. Don't put stuff up against the sides of it. Block the airflow, because it's got to have that airflow to work properly. Right. Okay, oil. Well, here we go talking about the oil again. So it does take a premium vacuum pump oil. We sell the Harvest Right oil, but you don't have to use that. As long as it's a premium, good quality vacuum pump oil, you can use it. Uh, there's the tea pitcher, we was talking about. So they've got two different types of pumps. They've got the oil pump and they got the oilless pump. The oilless pump is going to cost you about $1,400 more for your freeze dryer than the oil pump and stuff. Of course, because it doesn't take any oil. Uh, my personal recommendations: go with the oil pump. Think of your engine running with no oil. Okay, that's the same thing this right here is doing. Uh, it gets extremely hot. There's no lubrication. The veins in there wear out a lot quicker. And once the veins wear out inside that rotor, what are you going to do? You're going to turn around and go buy you an oil pump. I just like the oil pump. The thoughts of, there's lubrication, there's oil for cooling, oil for lubrication. Da, 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 da. I would rather drain my oil, every 30 cycles and recycle the oil than have a $1,500, $1,400 vacuum pump go bad in a year's time. And about the only thing you can do is replace it. I do not believe that you can get the veins or anything like that from Harvest Right or anybody. Uh, I used to work at Pet Dairy Ice Cream, and we had vacuum pumps there for picking up cartons and stuff. And they were, oilless pumps. and where we're constantly rebuilding the pumps, replacing the vanes and stuff in them. And then if you don't, it does draw moisture through there, so it can rust. If you don't use your freeze dryer for a couple of months, your vanes can get stuck inside the rotor, so then they won't sling out like they're supposed to and go around. Just in my opinion, uh, go with an old vacuum pump. A whole lot less, a little more aggravation, changing oil, but a lot less maintenance and cost involved. Like I said, changing the oil, I mean, takes 5 minutes, literally 5 minutes to change the oil. And the freeze dryer tells you when to do it. So, all right, freeze drying log. Okay, so it's really good to kind of keep a log, especially when you're first getting started. All right, so I'm freeze drying apple slices today. All right, so I'm doing apple slices, da 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 da. I'm running this temperature, da da. And when it gets done, okay, it took this long. This is my results. Okay, and then you can, sometimes the food doesn't fully dry. Here's another little tip and trick: weigh your food before you freeze dry it. So take your tray, fill it all up, put it on a scale, weigh it. Say it weighs 5 pounds. Put it in your freeze dryer, freeze dry it, pull it out. Now it weighs 3.5 pounds. So you know you removed 1.5 pounds of water. Put it back in there for another hour or two, and pull it back out. If the weight hadn't changed, it's completely dry. If the weight did change, now you weigh 3 pounds, you know, uh, 6 ounces or something. You know that there was still some moisture in the food. Go ahead and freeze dry a little bit more until the weight doesn't change. And also, by weighing it like that, say like your milk, you freeze dry your milk, weigh it, get it out, weigh it again. You removed 1.5 pounds of water. Do your math. A gallon of water weighs 8.1 pounds. So to reconstitute that tray, you'd have to add, 4 cups of water back to it. So by weighing it's a good little thing. But keep you a log. You can do like the room. You can get real specific with it. But what I do is, okay, so I'm especially with the candy. We freeze dry candy and stuff like that for the store. Uh, Jolly Ranchers freeze dry at a different temperature than Nerd Clusters or Skittles and stuff like that. So I keep a little log. Okay, so I run Jolly Ranchers at doing candy is totally different than freeze drying food. So I'm going to talk temperature. You're actually heating the food up to make it soft so it will expand. So freeze drying candy is a totally different monster than uh, doing regular foods and stuff. But I'll sit there and I'll write a log down. Okay, I tried it at 150 degrees. My Jolly Rancher swelled up to 1.5 inches. So next time, oh wait, here, let me try 160 degrees. Whoa, crap! I've got Jolly Rancher oozing out the sides of the trays now. Don't do 160.
So how do you change the temperature?
Okay, now you've got an older model, right? Have you updated
I
the
have
first?
one just like
Oh, with the 5 tray?
that.
Okay, need to update your firmware. I, I don't. I'll show you and tell you. Really simple. Um, skip for now. Let's see. This is a brand new one. All right. So with the new firmware, it's like stupid easy to use. I mean, even I can do it now. But you've got like a candy mode. So you hit candy, and then it gives you all your information. So the room temperature, 70 degrees. You want to pre-warm the food for 5 minutes. Or, these are all things that you can change. It's going to pre-warm the food for 5 minutes at 140 degrees. Okay. Drying time is 2 hours at 150 degrees. So now, like I said, this is for candy when you're doing candy. So if you leave it at standard settings and your Skittles didn't pop open and stuff like that, let's bump our temperature up. Let's warm it up at 150 degrees and stuff, and let's do it for 8 minutes of pre-warming. So what that means is when you load it up in there, before the vacuum pump will come on, it'll warm the trays up for 8 minutes at 150 degrees to get the candy good and soft so that it'll expand. Um, and then you've got a custom button right here. So if you're doing your regular foods, your freeze dried foods for long-term storage, you can set it up there too. So initial freeze is up to -10. Freeze time, it varies, because like I said, it's got the sensors, but you can actually give it a time. And drying temperature, 120 degrees. Now don't let that freak you out. It says 120 degrees. That food is not getting to 120 degrees. Remember, you're -50. So you've got to have put more heat into it to get past that -50 degrees. So your food might warm up to 70, 80 degrees at 120 degree setting. So now there's still some, things that go there that you can get the food up to 120 degrees, stuff like that. But that's more advanced once you know what all you're doing. And with the new software, like I said, if you're just freeze drying food, just hit the start button. It's got a 15-minute cycle to cool down. After that 15 minutes, load your trays up, close your drain valve, hit continue, walk away. And you're done until the process is finished. Remind you of what to do. All right. A few little tips. We've probably went over all this stuff already. How to make your freeze dryer more efficient and help achieve the best results. All right. Oh, bless you. Think like a baker. Baking time varies with ingredients and ovens. Freeze drying is similar. Depending on what it is, will depend on how long it takes to freeze dry. Aim at consistent thickness across the food items. So you don't want to have like big thicks of steak and little thin slices. You don't want to put a whole bunch of you don't want to put your cucumbers and your squash on one tray, and then your meat on another tray, and then your milk on another tray, and do it all at one time. Try to keep your batches all the same. All fruits, all veggies, all liquid. Do that right there. Just will help optimize the freeze drying process. I was going to say something. It lost. Oh, well, go ahead.
I have mixed stuff in there, and it does mean that you have to check for dryness on each individual tray.
Absolutely.
And so some trays I could go ahead and bag up, but some trays have to go back in for more drying.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely.
And it does work.
No, it's impossible to over dry. So say like you did, your green beans and squash in here, and then you got some milk and some Texas Pete. All right. Well, these are going to dry. Your veggies and stuff's going to dry out, in a lot shorter time. But the sensors right back in there, about the third shelf, middle shelf. Okay. So if you got fruit and veggies right there, and then you've got milk down here on the bottom tray, it may not sense that milk's done. It's going to see that everything else is done, but your milk's not. So yeah, like she said, I've done the same thing. I've done different things, and I can go ahead and take this off, but I got to put this back in there.
And put your stuff back in the middle.
Back in the middle, where the sensors and stuff are. Yep, absolutely. Resist the urge to overload the trays. All right, so I got a buddy. He's into sour salt. You ever heard of sour salt? It's a tropical fruit that helps. It's real watery. It tastes like a combination of apples and bananas and pineapple all mixed together. It is really good, really good. But he would go get the sour salt and he'd process it, and I'd give him the trays to take home. And next thing I know, he's coming in and he's got slabs in there about this thick. and it wound up taking like 4 days to freeze dry it. So I actually had to charge him more because it took a lot longer to do. So after that, though, he started making the slices a lot thinner. But yeah, try not to overload your trays. Keep it to the rim if you can. If you don't, just expect to freeze dry longer. Weigh your food and stuff. Make sure that all the moisture content's been removed out of it. Again, yeah, back to the weight. Weighing your food. So 1 gallon weighs 8.34. Half a gallon 4.17, 1 cup of water, 8.32 ounces. So you can sit there and just do your math after you weigh your food before you put it in. You weigh it when you get done. You know how much. You just subtract, divide, multiply, and then you can write it on the bag. So if this tray now weighs 3 pounds, if I cut that tray in half, I know that's 1.5 pounds. Or if I cut that in a quarter, are you with me? So you can sit there and proportion it up to put it in your bags, and then you can write on your bag, okay, to reconstitute this 1 bag of milk, I need to add, 3 cups of water, and you can write that on your bag, and because in a disaster situation, you're gonna be like, oh crap, how much water I put in, and you'll be guessing and stuff like that. But yeah, I'll always weigh your food, especially when you're getting going, learning the process and stuff. Weigh it before and after. Uh, when you pull it out, weigh it, put it back in, weigh it again after a couple hours. If no change, you're good. If it does change, the freeze dry it some more. All right, and then here's a couple little charts of average times. So like apple wedges, about 9 hours of freezing time, and then 7 hours of drying time. Okay, if you take your apple slices and you put them in your freezer, and then you do it, you just cut 9 hours off the freeze drying process. Okay, uh, beef, same way, bananas, all this stuff here. Blueberries, you're looking at 12 hours and about 12 hours for freeze drying time. Cheese, everything stays around you about 9 and 7. Uh, most everything. Uh, like pineapple. Pineapple takes a little bit longer, and it depends on how you slice them. If you got them in cubes and stuff, it takes a little longer. But uh, you can see down here some of this stuff. Soup, 40 to 48 hours to freeze dry your soup because it's liquid. Lasagna, lasagna, I'd put it about 9 and 7. That's it. So, hey, oh my gosh, that's about an hour and a half. Did good.